Tonight, it's two teams coming off impressive seasons a year ago, squaring off in Denver. After a school record 22 wins, can the Pioneers repeat with some new faces in new roles? Chris Udofia knows his role. The junior forward returns to once again terrorize any and all that attempt to score down low.
That one rejected by Udofia.
While the guys from Fort Collins found themselves dancing with 20 wins last year, the Rams may possess an even deeper team this season. Led by their heart and soul, Pierce Hornung.
Pierce Hornung.
It's an early season front range showdown. Next on Root Sports. Root Sports is serving up college basketball for your Thanksgiving Eve, and on the menu, an in-state rivalry. CSU's Rams down from Fort Collins to Denver to take on the Pioneers at DU. And welcome, basketball fans, to Magnus Arena. We're on the campus of the University of Denver, and happy Thanksgiving. Mark Stout, former DU coach Greg Lackey. The gauntlet that is the non-conference schedule for the Pioneers continues tonight.
Yeah, another good basketball team, another NCAA tournament team, and very similar in style. Both big inside and great guard play, and that usually defines teams that play late in March.
For the Pioneers, game in and game out, they depend on their junior forward, Chris Udofia, and Greg, he's off a double-double.
Yeah, he got off to a little bit of a slow start in that Cal game, and I thought the size inside bothered him. But then he settled down in the second half and played extremely well. He's got a similar challenge tonight with Colorado State. Good size at the basket, and he just needs to slow down and finish plays like he did in the second half of that Cal game.
That size for CSU comes in the form of Colton Iverson. He's 6'10", and a transfer from Minnesota.
Well, and he only has 1 year to play at Colorado State. Some people might ask, is that worth it? Well, looking at the start, he's off of 18 points, 9 rebounds a game. Gives Colorado State, something at the basket they probably didn't have a year ago. Just that big, strong body that can finish plays and anchor him defensively.
So that'll be the matchup inside. When you talk about outside and shooting for DU, you talk about Brett Olson. Joe Scott has asked him to shoot more, and he has.
Yeah, one of the things that Denver is missing is obviously Stafford's graduation and his points. And Brett's done a good job, though, of kind of picking up that slack. And what's interesting about his statistics up to this point, he scored 12 field goals, all behind the arc. But tonight, I think DU is kind of going to move him around a little bit offensively, and I'll bet he gets his first goal inside the arc.
Olson's a sophomore. His counterpart for CSU is a senior in Wes Eichmeyer.
Well, if you're going to play late in March, it's guard play, Mark, and that's what Colorado State has in Eichmeyer. He was tremendous down the stretch last year for him. With the coaching change, Larry Eustachy, he's asked him to kind of take on a little bit more of a defensive role for this team. But if this game gets late and Colorado State needs a basket, I'll bet you that Eichmeyer's involved.
These two teams met last January in Fort Collins. The Rams won it by 4. CSU trying to go to 3-0. We're ready to feast on college basketball. Tip-off coming up next here on Root Sports. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven.
1, 2, 3. Got me, Tavis? Okay.
We're going to miss the anthem here, right? Or the anthem's coming in 5 seconds. Okay. Denver Pioneers basketball on Root Sports is brought to you by Pepsi. Pepsi, live for now. By Jeep. Discover the unique brand of freedom you'll only find in the full line of Jeep vehicles. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. And by the Denver Post. Download free sports and news apps for smartphones and tablets at denverpost.com/mobile. And welcome back to Magnus Arena, getting set for tip-off. Rams from the Mountain West Conference getting introduced, and DU now in the WAC. And it's time to check in with the third member of our broadcast team tonight, Jenny Kavnar, for the Frontier Sideline Report. Jenny.
Thanks, Mark. You know, Coach Larry Eustacey for Colorado State, he's not much for records or for accolades, but he heard about Dorian Green's consecutive game starting streak, and he was impressed. It was at 97 when he had a decision to make last week against Chadron State. Green had concussion-like symptoms from the game before, but he was cleared to play. So he started him for number 98. He pulled him out as soon as he could to get him some rest. Completely healthy tonight. Green will make start number 99 in a Rams uniform here at Magnus Arena. And if his streak continues throughout the rest of his senior season, he will own a permanent place in the Colorado State history books, Mark.
Yeah, and Dorian Green about to become top 15 scoring-wise for CSU. There's Larry Eustacey, the new head coach. You know the name. His first year with the CSU Rams. Tonight's Jeep starting lineups. And we'll start with the visitors from Colorado State. We mentioned Colton Iverson in the middle. Greg Smith, some size as well.
Yeah, and getting back to Dorian Green and what Jenny said about, Larry Eustacey, that's what a veteran coach does. They come in, they embrace what's happened in the past, and boy, he's got a great lineup here to work with. A lot of experience in that Colorado State basketball team.
Third game on the season for CSU, fourth game for Joe Scott's Pioneers, and he again starts the same lineup. Udofia, the main man, we mentioned Olsen. Blake Foman and Royce O'Neal can fill it up too.
Yeah, and I think that's been the challenge for Denver here early, is kind of finding that fifth guy. Foman was really good, especially early in that Cal game, and now can they find that sixth and seventh guy? I got a feeling though that our guy from Colorado Springs, Ingesser, is going to find a few more minutes tonight than he did in the Cal game.
There's Joe Scott, the head coach of the Pioneers, in his sixth season, a Princeton grad, New Jersey native, and trying to improve on his 81-76 mark for DU, and that was also a good mark at home. DU lost to Cal, and that's a rare home loss. They don't lose a lot of games here at Magnus Arena under Joe Scott.
No, they don't. Both these teams actually have been very, very good at home. Colorado State actually struggled a little bit on the road last year, but again, when you have an experienced basketball team, they're used to playing in these environments, and we got a good one tonight here in Magnus Arena.
So far on the season, DU loses at Iona. They beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi at home. Then they lose to Cal. And CSU, a couple of wins over Montana and Chadron State at home. So, Greg, what should we watch for CSU?
Well, they got to keep getting the basketball inside. Colton has to have touches. He's averaging 18 points. They need to keep doing that and defend the trifecta. Denver relies on that three-pointer.
What about the Pioneers? What do they have to do to try to win this game against the Rams?
Well, if the ball's going inside, Udofia's got to stay out of foul trouble, and defending the block is obviously, and then finding easy baskets. In a game like this, it's how many easy baskets can you get and how many can you prevent.
Just about ready to tip it off. Crowds still filling Magnus Arena. Going to be a good environment for the 160th meeting of the Rams and the Pioneers.
Hey, this is great, isn't it? I mean, Colorado basketball's back. You got two teams coming off the NCAA tournament. Denver winning 22 games last year. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight, Mark.
And we are underway. DU gets the tip, and Chase Hallam missed the layup. Came right to him.
Denver in that Cal game, how many baskets did they miss early in that? Just, right there and weren't able to finish.
They couldn't get any kind of a roll. Iverson positioned underneath and knocked away by Udofia. Out to Green, he'll direct traffic. A little bit of a head fake. And that's blocked away. By the way, there was an issue with the shot clock. I don't know whether that's what Joe Scott was trying to figure out. And I think they're going to talk about it now. I looked up and it was stuck at about 21 seconds. And he doesn't miss those kind of things. So that's what the officials are talking about.
Well, he's used to playing with that clock, so I'm sure he looks at it quite often during the game.
So I mentioned this is the 160th meeting in this series. Let's take a look at the series history between CSU and DU. Yeah, it goes back to 1904, by the way. And DU does lead here at Magnus. The two played last year on January the 11th, and it was a 79-75 win for CSU. So the Rams and the Pioneers are familiar with one another, to say the least.
Well, it's games like this within the state that I think are so important when teams get together. And, you know, when you look at a non-conference schedule and building it, I feel it's very important that the in-state schools play each other as often as they can anyway.
And on a night like this, the night before a holiday, you get that good kind of Colorado feeling as they have figured things out, and DU will bring it up across midcourt with Royce O'Neal and Brett Olson. Just underway. O'Neal with a backdoor cut. Out to Foreman, spots up and misses that. And look who gets the rebound. Pierce Hornung. We'll talk about his prowess under the boards coming up. Iverson out from low post. Now he goes back underneath. And knocked away, and there's a steal by Udofia. And the junior slows it up after the steal. Chase Hallam around the screen. Swinging around O'Neal. You've got Hornung guarding Udofia. 12 on the shot clock. Olson, three ball, in and out. And rolls around, and the board comes to the Rams. Well, Olson had a good look at that three.
He had a very good look, and Denver will live with that within their offense. I mean, if Olson can find those looks the rest of the night, I mean, Denver will be in a good position.
The foul called on Udofia is Hornung kind of was just driving around. There's Pierce Hornung, who's a local guy from Arvada, went to Ralston Valley, and for his size, he gets a lot of rebounds, Greg.
Well, when I think of Pierce Hornung, what I think of is someone I think of him carrying like a lunch pail.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that kind of player. I mean, does everything, has a great nose for the basketball.
There he is. And trying to get to the hoop, gets there, and that won't go in. Smith almost with a rebound, but Olson comes up with it. And knocked away by Green. Hornung, Green. And there's the first 2 points of the night.
And that's what Denver has to stay out of, those easy baskets and you know, off turnovers in particular.
Rams up with the first hoop. Pioneers will be patient. O'Neal and Udofia. You know the offense that they run. Smith got a hand on that. It stays the way of the Pioneers. There's 7 on the shot clock.
Denver's usually pretty good in these situations. Little time on the clock, inbound in the basketball.
Foreman's going to have to shoot. Gets around into the hoop. And are they going to call an offensive foul? No, it's going to go against CSU and Dorian Green underneath.
Well, you know, you're right, Mark. A couple years ago, that would have been an offensive foul, but I don't think he got his feet outside that arc right there. I think those feet were planted inside, and it's going to put Foreman at the free throw line.
Larry Eustace not happy with the call. Foreman to the line for 2. Tied his career high with 8 against Cal. And can't hit the first free throw. I'll tell my answer again when I ask Joe Scott about how do you coach free throws, and he always says to me, can you make 2 shots with nobody on you? From the same spot in a row. That's what I ask.
Joe has a way of simplifying.
He does. So DU on the scoreboard. Green, Smith underneath Iverson, position, and can't get it to go. Udofia ends up with a rebound. Back out, Hallam's going to try a 3, and he got it. And that's good news. Chase Hallam came into this game 3 for 13 from beyond the arc, but he hits that hoop and gives the Pioneers a lead.
Yeah, they're going to need the senior to make plays similar. I mean, he's very important for this Denver team and going to kind of depend upon the success that they have here.
Hallam does that too. He draws fouls, and here's the 3 that he hits.
Well, it all starts with Udofia's penetrating pitch and Chase stepping into a good shot. I mean, he's a great rhythm shooter, and right there he demonstrates.
Took a little bit of a knock from Colton Iverson. I guess it's good to have a height differential to draw a foul like that. I'm not sure the officials are going to review the film again. Here's the elbow from Iverson on Chase Hallam. And he's out high post, just trying to throw it underneath. Whew.
Yeah, that'll probably turn into, it's either a flagrant 1 or 2. And
so that's what they're looking at, yeah. So there's Hallam. We saw Colton Iverson. Iverson, there he is. He's from Yankton, South Dakota. His dad was actually a draft pick of both the Seattle Supersonics and the Memphis Tams back in the day. He didn't play professionally, but he's the athletic director at a college in Yankton. It's Mount Marty College. So they called it a flagrant 1.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. And that's a tough play for a big guy. I don't think there's a lot of intent there, but when you're at 6'10" and you got a smaller guy underneath of you, obviously that smaller guy is right at your elbows. But again, college basketball, concussions, Colorado State understands that. I mean, Dorian Green, he had some concussion symptoms here early, and they're trying to protect players. And I understand the rule, and it's a tough call, but again, I think it's the right thing for what they're sending the right message.
That elbow situation could happen right here between you and I because of how tall you are. So DU gets the basketball. They hit the 2 free throws. Hallam off to a good start with 5. O'Neal backs in, kicks it out. Foreman, good look, and that's off for Blake Foreman. And a foul over the top on Udofia, and that's 2 on the Pioneers junior. And Joe Scott's going to have to substitute because Udofia draws this foul underneath.
Well, and the one guy that Denver probably could not afford to have sitting next to everyone else over there is Chris Udofia. So, but again, these non-conference games, this is going to happen during the season, and someone for Denver is going to have to step up and take these minutes.
And a 3-ball by Dorian Green. With Marcus Bird in his face, Bird, the sophomore, is on for Udofia. O'Neal had a look underneath. Bird and the Highlands Ranch high schooler can't hit it. Eichmeyer. Rams swing it around. Trying to retake the lead. Eichmeyer beyond the arc. Hallam trying to D up Iverson. That's the guy that'll hassle you all night, Hallam. And there's a foul on the Pioneers as Eichmeyer tries to drive the lane. CSU with a 3-ball from guess who? Dorian Green. He's now 4 away from 100 in his career, and Denver leads by a point. Almost 5 minutes in here at Magnus Arena. Denver with a 6-5 lead early on. And time now to bring you the injury report, brought to you by Porter Hospital. Rams have a few guys that are banged up, including the Smith brothers. The younger Dwight going to redshirt because he tore an ACL. You see Greg, who's playing in the middle with a broken nose, and Jesse Carr also out with a left foot injury.
You know, and Jesse Carr, as a freshman, I thought had a chance to have a great career at Colorado State. Unfortunately, he's just been marred by injury. And can you imagine him, though, with this team with Eichmeyer and Green, and had that at third guard?
There's Smith with the nose guard on underneath. To the hoop. Strong, can't get it to go. And Bird grabs the board. O'Neal brings it up court. There's Bird and Olsen, who were teammates in high school. Out to Foreman. Pioneers play this patient offense. Olsen thought about it. He missed his first three. Now O'Neal, 5 on the shot clock. Gets a pick. Bird wide open. Spots up and misses that. The Pioneers are 1 of 7 early on from the floor.
Just a little bit of inexperience with Bird there. I mean, he had that chance at the basket there last possession. I felt like he just rushed for a little bit.
Let's check in with Jenny Kavanaugh again. Jen.
Yeah, you guys are talking about Greg Smith and his broken nose. It happened this past weekend on Saturday at practice. In fact, just about 30 minutes in after warm-ups, they got going on one-on-one drills. And Smith ran into his teammate, Gerson Santo. His nose started bleeding. What was most impressive is he finished practice. This is not a custom mask that he's wearing. It's one that the trainer had on hand. The mask they have ordered from has yet to come in. So he did not do warm-ups with it, but he decided to go ahead and play with it for safety and protection.
He's got it on. And there's Eichmeyer, who we talked about, hitting a 3 with a hand in his face.
Yeah, those masks kind of become standard equipment with a basketball team. There's usually a nose broken throughout the year.
Right. Bird looking for Hallam cutting down the lane. Back out, Bird, long 3, and that's short, front of the rim. Smith with the rebound, right to O'Neal, and an easy bucket for DU.
Well, with Udofia on the bench, someone for Denver is going to have to pick up that slack scoring-wise. Right there, O'Neal doing a good job, just being alert, stepping right back into the passing lane and easy basket.
Eichmeyer on the drive, and an offensive foul called on the senior. Let's go back to this bucket that DU gets underneath from Royce O'Neal. Bird misses the 3.
It's kind of an old playground play where you just kind of jump back in, you act like you're headed down the floor, but instead, nope, I think I'll step right back in this passing lane and grab the ball.
You know, O'Neal's a guy that, they're going to depend on for some scoring, but, you know, when you look at his numbers, he led the team in rebounds last season, and he's already second on the team in boards this year.
Well, he's kind of that prototypical player that Denver looks for. I mean, that 6'5" guy that is skilled and can play in multiple positions, and I think that's what you're going to see with him tonight. I mean, you can see him lining up in the post or bringing the ball down the floor.
And the freshman Nate Ingesser is on, out of Colorado Springs. Only his second appearance of the season. And he's a guy that can shoot the 3. O'Neal will shoot it here. And back of the rim this time. Santo with the rebound as the Brazilian, the juniors, checked in for CSU. This has Daniel Bejarano, who just passed it to Hornung, and O'Neal with a big rebound. Ingesser. Couldn't catch that in rhythm. Olsen down the lane. Now Ingesser, there's his shot, and in and out. Rattled around. And it's going to go to CSU.
Yeah, but the freshman did not hesitate. I mean, he grabbed the basketball, nice shot fake, stepped up, and just didn't get the ball to go in.
DU 1 of 6 from beyond the arc here early on. In an 8-8 basketball game, Eichmeyer determined to drive on Brett Olsen, and another foul called on the Pioneers. Here's the dribble drive through the lane and the foul call. Eichmeyer's a little shaken up.
Yeah, and at the end of this play, Marcus Bird kind of extends a hand and unintentionally gets Eichmeyer in the face, or looks like maybe in the right eye there.
There's Wes Eichmeyer, who transferred from Iowa State, which of course is a school that Larry Eustace used to coach at. Santo, turnaround jumper won't go. Hornung is on the line. It's going to be DU's basketball.
Well, you look at the lineup for Colorado State, and they've done a nice job taking some transfers and kind of putting them together. I mean, Green was a freshman coming in, and as well as Hornung, but the rest of those guys out there transferred in from somewhere else.
Including Bejarano, who's on number 2, who went to Arizona. Bird, he misses that. And the drought from beyond the arc continues. Eichmeyer spots up. Can't get that to go. And that's a foul on Pierce Hornung underneath against Royce O'Neal. That was a pretty heavy-duty collision underneath the basket on that rebound. 8-8 basketball game here in the first half between these in-state rivals on Root Sports. Shot of Evans Avenue outside of the campus of the University of Denver. 8-8 early on. You were talking about experience. CSU off a 20-win season. They return 7 letter winners, and it's almost the opposite when you're talking about experience, Greg.
Yeah, you look here. Here's 6. Here's 6. 6 freshmen, 6 seniors, and that's the difference in these. I mean, especially here early in this basketball game. Udofia goes to the bench. Denver has to replace him with someone who hasn't played many minutes. Colorado State, if they lose someone, they're bringing someone in who's played a lot of minutes.
DU now is counting on a couple of sophomores on the floor, and Olsen and O'Neal. And, of course, Hallam, the senior. And that's a giveaway. That's a miscue by the Pioneers. Dorian Green on the dribble.
Mark, you brought up a good point, too. Even with the new guys from Colorado State, they've played a lot of minutes at the Division I level. I mean, Bejarano, he was transferred from Arizona. Santos played College of Southern Idaho.
There he is with the shot. Yeah, he's a JUCO guy, and that comes out to the Arizona transfer who gets his first shot off. That rattles around. O'Neal grabs the board. Olsen, and he misses that 3 as he's falling backwards. Now Green pushes it for the Rams. CSU had a little bit of a tough game with Montana in their opener. They were down 7 at the half and ended up beating a good Montana team at home. And then they took care of Chadron State in a game that really wasn't a contest. At one point it was 35-5 early on.
Well, we talk about the experience of this Colorado State team. One thing we probably haven't mentioned enough here is that there is a change in leadership. Tim Miles led this team last year, built brought a lot of these guys in. Larry Stacy's taken over. Tim did a great job. Coach Stacy brings a little bit, I think, of more of a defensive-minded philosophy to this program. And Colorado State, you know, again, they're kind of feeling their way with the new coach and so forth. But again, just a lot of good players on the floor.
Green with a long three. There was 10 on the shot clock, and he drains it. And the Rams take the lead. Just about halfway through this first half. Udofia back on with his 2 fouls. O'Neal position underneath, can't get it off the glass. And no foul on Iverson underneath, and Smith brings it up. And Royce O'Neal under the basket, slow to get up. So we go from a CSU 3 from Green, and he hit this from well beyond the arc over Ingesser to give CSU the lead 11-8, and then back underneath, the injury to O'Neal.
Well, O'Neal, again, a little quick with that shot, kind of expecting the big guy to come over a little quicker, and contact at the basket left O'Neal on the floor.
There's O'Neal from Killeen, Texas. I talked about how O'Neal could fill it up, and you kind of look at his numbers from the last game. 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. You know.
Yeah, he can fill up a stat sheet. For Denver, bringing Udofia and back into this game, 2 fouls. A lot of coaches, a lot of times, guys get 2 fouls in the first half. You won't see him until the start of the second half. But I think that Coach Scott feels like that he's got to keep this game a little bit close. He can't let it get away from him and then, you know, hope Udofia can rescue him in the second half.
Well, he's 2-0 against Larry Eustace. He's faced him a couple of times when Eustace was coaching at your alma mater, Southern Miss.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what Coach Eustace said before the game tonight. He goes, I've had this experience once.
Yeah. In fact, last year, DU beat Southern Miss. Bejarano stops, pops, can't get it to go. Udofia trying to get the board. It comes out to Iverson. He's hassled by Cam Griffin, who comes on for the Pioneers, number 30.
Well, Colorado State likes to get you spread out and then involve a lot of ball screens.
There's a screen for Green. And a long rebound to Bejarano. So a new shot clock for Eichmeyer and the Rams. CSU leading on the board 16-7. There's a problem that DU had against Cal. They were out-rebounded by 12 in that basketball game that they lost. Foul on Ingesser, the freshman.
With all the ball screens that are occurring for Colorado State, Denver will switch those, and you'll see a mismatch inside sometimes there. Ingesser gets caught on a much bigger Smith and fouls called.
Griffin got a hand on that. And a blocking foul called on Cam Griffin. And Smith dribbled around. Another foul on the Pioneers.
Another foul, and Colorado State's at the line shooting 1-1 the rest of the half.
So Greg Smith goes to the line. The senior from Omaha was Nebraska's Mr. Hoops. Eichmeyer takes a seat. There's Smith, 6'6", 221. And you can't get that to go. Udofia with the rebound. Pioneers trail by 3.
Important possession here for Denver. I mean, this game's kind of gotten a little wilder than they like to play, and they just need to settle down here and run their offense.
There's under 9 minutes to go. They've got 8 points. O'Neal down the lane and gets a little runner to go. You know, you've got 10 points with less than 9 minutes to go in the half.
Again, Colorado State's been able to kind of force that tempo, both offensively and defensively, and Denver's uncomfortable with the way Colorado State wants to play.
Octius has come in, number 5. The redshirt sophomore is Bejarano's on it with 10 on the shot clock. And Iverson draws a foul underneath. I think they're going to call a foul on Brett Olson. What about those kind of matchups when, you got to pick a guy up because of a switch?
Well, again, the way Denver defends, they'll accept that. Right there, what Olsen was trying to do was actually he was trying to beat Iverson to the spot, and the official just felt like he was a little bit too physical. Kind of hard to believe that Olsen would be physical,
right?
Huh?
I asked Joe Scott if he saw a little bit of himself in Brett Olsen, kind of a heady player, and he said, yeah, but he's not as vocal as I am. There's Olsen in the background. Iverson hit the front end of the 1-and-1, misses that. And Olsen with a rebound.
Iverson struggled as a free throw shooter at the University of Minnesota, and those games get late, with big guys. That could kind of determine games, correct.
Udofia going to drive the lane and misses. And Octius with the rebound. They'll handle the basketball for the Rams. And Eichmeyer and Green aren't dribbling it from beyond the arc. That three won't go. There's Iverson with a rebound. Underneath. Horning gets it to go.
He is so solid. I was talking to a high school coach before the game, and we were talking about the career he's had at Colorado State. He said, I've never seen a guy finish plays like he has, and has continued to do that during his college career.
Leading rebounder for the Rams coming into this game with 25 in 2 games. Does the dirty work underneath. O'Neal, screen, shot, and that's off. Cold shooting continues for DU. It started in that game against Cal, their loss here at home, and it continues tonight. Underneath, Iverson, little head fake, and I think he picked up his feet. So a walk on Iverson, but the Rams have the lead on the road, 14-10. As Horning, the Arvada kid, getting it done underneath. Exactly 7 minutes to go in the first half. Rams up on the Pioneers by 4. Another great college football lineup coming up this Saturday on Root Sports. Kick off your day with UAB in Central Florida at 10. And then after that, we've got a Mountain West doubleheader. Wyoming hosting San Diego State at 1:30. And then CSU, the Rams that are here, hosting New Mexico and Fort Collins at 5. Those are the games on here on Root Sports coming up this Saturday. Let's check in again with Jenny Kavnar.
Yeah, Mark, I got a chance to talk with Joe Scott before the game today. Really asked him what he wants these non-conference games to mean by the time they start WAC play in a new conference. He said, I'm trying to find out who my 5 through 9 guys are. I feel like I have a solid 1 through 4, but who's going to be that 5th guy that fits in with their chemistry? Cam Griffin is one that he's looking at. Feels like he's going to be a key cog, whether he's a 5th, 6th, or 7th guy off the bench. He wants to see him mature in these games. He feels like he lacks that game experience, especially in hard games. games. That's what he's trying to get by playing teams like Colorado State on their non-conference schedule.
Right, Jenny. He's kind of said I'm a little leery of looking at the score of these non-conference games because you know how Joe Scott is, and there's Cam Griffin on cue, hitting a bucket for the Pioneers. They're now 4 of 19 from the floor, 1 of 9 from 3. They've been out-rebounded by 10. They're down 2.
Yeah, and you look up at the scoreboard, Udofia hasn't scored and Olsen hasn't scored. So I would imagine if I'm Joe Scott, I will take that right now. Get down 2 with your 2 leading scorers, scoreless.
There's Green, who has 8 in the game and draws another foul. And so he'll shoot free throws. And there's Jalen Love, freshman, another guy that Joe Scott looks down on his bench and calls on. And, you know, that's the inexperience.
Well, to kind of continue what Jenny was saying about finding those guys, you know, 5 through 9 and non-conference games such as Colorado State or Cal, or they got Southern Miss coming up after this. You know, then by the way, they go out to Stanford. I mean, if they could just get through that stretch, not lose any confidence, it will help them prepare for the Western Athletic Conference.
Well, there's Love. He was part of Joe Scott's bench in the Cal game. That bench was 0 for 8 from the floor and contributed at 8 points a free throw. CSU by 3. Love underneath, knocked away. Iverson with a steal and a foul. Did they call a foul on a reach-in? Here's the non-conference schedule that we're talking about. And, you know, Joe Scott knows it's a difficult schedule, but, you know, he's got to think about the WAC coming up. Southern Miss next.
Southern Miss next. Stanford, the NIT champions, and Mercer also went to a postseason tournament last year and won. That's another team on this DU schedule.
And there's Hallam, hits a 3, and that'll tie the game up. And that's what Denver does. They shoot the 3. Coming into this game, in their first 3, they had shot 40 more three-pointers than the opponent. And a steal. Hallam off and running to the hoop. And Eichmeyer gets in the way, and then there's a foul underneath. It's got to be a loose ball foul on Octius. He came through on Chase Hallam. Hallam, second 3 of the game, steps out and gets a good look.
Well, both him and O'Neal are a lot more aggressive tonight than they were in the previous game. Right here, he kind of short arms it, realizes it though, goes back and gets it, and foul occurs.
Olsen swings it over to O'Neal, almost had Udofia on that inbounds pass. Now O'Neal gonna direct the show. Iverson gives him a shot, and he's got to make that shot, Greg. Yeah. Give it to him from the free throw line?
And he will make it. He just needs to continue to take it. And I thought in the Cal game, he passed on some of those.
Offensive foul against Octius. Is Udofia able to draw that?
Well, whenever Coach Scott sees contact with Udofia, especially right now, having those 2 fouls, he kind of winces and just wonders, okay, right, which way is this going? Be interesting to see what they do with Udofia here. 4:50 to go. He's got a tied basketball game. Do you risk that 3rd foul?
So Bejarano come back on for CSU. Octius will take a seat. And Hallam and Olsen deliberate as they bring the basketball up for the Pioneers. Tied game at 15. Love. And Love drains a 3.
What was good about that is, again, another freshman, but he stepped right into it. He grabbed it. There was no hesitation and just shot it in. I mean, and that's what you like to see. No hesitation out of those younger players.
Bejarano, that's short. He comes up and knocks it out. So there's Daniel Bejarano, redshirt sophomore. Let's watch a freshman from Wichita drain a 3.
Yeah, watch Love right there. Again, he just grabs it and shoots it, and that's what you want to see out of those young players. Right there, Udofia going to the bench. You got the TV timeout coming out after the 4-minute mark here, so Coach Scott kind of buying some time with Chris Udofia.
Yeah, and Iverson, you know, he's going to bang him down underneath. Now Marcus Bird is on. As you see number 35 swing it to O'Neal. O'Neal, and that's knocked away. Hornan with the block. Here comes Green. CSU trying to run it. And the Pioneers get back. Big man underneath, Iverson. And Iverson draws the foul, but hits the hoop. He's going to go to the line. There's a transfer from Minnesota who came into the game averaging 18 and 8 boards. Going to the line when we come back in a 1-point game.
Y'all just cheer?
Well, the Rams are down a point here in Denver. We want to go back to last year when the Rams got an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament, and they took on Murray State in Louisville and ended up losing that game 58-41. CSU led by a point at the half, and then they missed 9 of their first 10 shots in the second half and were eliminated by the Racers.
But just getting back to the tournament for CSU and then returning that, most of the nucleus. So a lot of excitement in Fort Collins, rightfully so. And the Mountain West Conference, again, it's kind of the same 3 teams up top: San Diego State, New Mexico, UNLV, but then Colorado State's right in there.
And they're picked 4th in the preseason poll in October. And San Diego State has a loss, but who did they lose to? Syracuse, the number 6 team in the nation, tied at 18.
Well, the Mountain West Conference will be very good again this year.
Hallam going to shoot it up, and another shot that's off for the Pioneers. They're 6 of 21 from the floor. It's under 30%. That's what they shot against Cal.
Yeah, neither one of these teams putting on much of an offensive show here, but again, defensive-minded, both coaches, and you're seeing that.
Mike Iverson underneath. And that's a mismatch against Jalen Love, and the jam for Big Iverson.
Colorado State's going to continue to pound that basketball inside. I mean, the size advantage is obviously to their favor, and that's where the ball needs to go.
Out to Love. He hit a 3 in his last shot. That one misses. But there's Chase Hallam. And DU's going to keep possession. Let's look at Iverson down below.
Yeah, well, the big fella right in there, I mean, he just clears out space, and he's too much for DU. Denver's got to do a better job of getting ball pressure on the wing and making that pass a little bit more difficult, and somehow trying to get the big fella a little further away from the basket.
Get a little chippy underneath the bucket before the pass gets thrown in.
You think this game means something to both teams?
In-state rivalry, and this time last year, DU was undefeated. They were 5-0 before their first loss, which was to Iona, right, in an overtime game. O'Neal. And he just can't get anything to go down. Rams with the basketball and the 2-point lead as we come up on 2 minutes to go in the first half. Mark Stock, Greg Lackey, Jenny Kavnar with you. For this in-state rivalry, that goes for Dorian Green.
Good penetration by the senior there, and then gathering himself and completing the play.
CSU on a 7-0 run. And Cam Griffin gets to the hoop strong, and that 7-0 run ends.
Well, both teams like to get you spread out and then dribble penetration. You saw Green on the last possession for Colorado State. And right there, Denver doing the same.
When Udofia's on Iverson, you would think he would go to the hoop, but he finds Horning, who's right there. And nice layup with the left hand.
Yeah, finishing plays. I mean, again, right, left-handed, doesn't matter. He just gets the ball in the basket.
Olsen, long three. That won't go. Rams with the board. Iverson. Nice pass underneath. It's knocked away. It'll stay CSU's basketball. Here's what's coming up on the U.S. Bank halftime report. We're going to get to know Chris Udofia a little bit better, the man in the middle for the Pioneers. We'll talk some high school football playoffs coming up this Friday night, and as we get ready for the high school football championships and the highlights and stats from the first half, all brought to you by U.S. Bank. What do you think Joe Scott's telling his team here, down 4 with under a minute to go?
They have not played well.
Right.
Okay, that's obvious. But you're only down 4. What they need to do is just close out this half, have a good defensive possession here, and then go down at the other end and get back into your offense and develop some rhythm.
Well, you get a defensive stop here, and then you potentially could have the last shot of the half. If you hit it, you know, you're only going to be down 2 or 3.
I think what was really important is Udofia picked up that second foul with about, 13, 14 minutes to go in the half, and he was able to kind of get him in and out, and he's got him on the bench right now, not risking the third, so that's a win for Denver.
Let's see if they get it to Iverson with Bird and Foreman on him. Now it's Blake Foreman, D'ing up big number 45, and he's all the 6'10" that he's showing underneath, and there he is, and there's Foreman on the reach around.
You know, that might work out to Denver's advantage. Again, I mentioned earlier that the big guy, Iverson, is not a great free throw shooter. So take your chances versus just letting him lay it in. Although that looked pretty good.
That happens every time you say that. Larry Eustace looking on. Rams now up 5. And 6 ought to be their biggest lead of the half at 26-20. Santo on. Iverson will sit down for the rest of the half and take a breather. And he's been a difference maker for the Rams. About 5 seconds difference on the shot clock.
Well, what Denver would like to have happen here is get it down.
Foreman throws it away. The breakout to Green, and another hoop and another bucket for CSU, and the Rams fans enjoying the way the end of this first half is going for CSU.
Yeah, that's just how Denver did not want to end this half. A turnover and an easy basket.
O'Neal. Somebody's got to get a shot off. It's going to be Olsen underneath, and he gets rejected. Horning, last shot of the half. Nope, they're going to whistle that dead. CSU ends the first half on a 13-2 run, and they lead it by 8.
Yeah, Denver had that thing at 6. The turnover, easy basket for CSU. Lead a little bit larger than what Joe Scott was hoping.
Now let's hear from Joe Scott. He's with Jenny Kavanaugh now.
Coach Scott, if I told you that Udofia and Olsen wouldn't have points in your first half, would you think that you would be able to keep up with where you guys had until the last minute here?
Well, I think that's what happened. You know, we're not playing well offensively at all, and again, we're struggling to put the ball in the basket. We have wide open shots. We're not making them, and we're just putting a little too much strain on our defense. Our defense was very good, but as we can't put it in, we just keep giving them opportunities, and you know, they're a veteran, older team.